Peace and welcome to another episode of Artistry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rachelle Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. Season 3 of Artistry is powered by Words, Beats, and Life. Peace. Welcome. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Artistry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rachelle Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. If you are joining us for the very first time, welcome to the show. If you are returning, welcome back. Before we get started with our guest that we have today, a couple of announcements. We've had a very laboring weekend. For those of you from the DMV area and beyond, if you attended Otakon, that's where we were this past weekend, where we held a panel, our program called Sketchpads. If you missed it, no fear, no worries. We will be taking the show on the road.
Yes,
we are
absolutely.
Taking the show on the road.
Yeah, we got two more Sketchpads events already queued up, actually. So yeah, we're actually taking it to a smoothie shop, which is going to be dope. Because shout out to Spizzy here in the DMV. So we'll be going there, doing still life drawing and playing some live beats and having some amazing smoothies, son. You know what I'm saying? It's exciting, you know? So yeah, and then
after that we have we'll be at Creative Suitland, located in Suitland, Maryland, in PG County, Prince George's County, where we will be hosting an event. We got some really. I'm not gonna show everything.
We'll save that for the next episode.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Hit you with the details.
If you are again from the DMV area and would like to participate, Sketchpads, for those that don't know, is a program that Stan and I came up with, where we bring in visual artists. We bring in a visual artist to provide a live illustration demonstration, and we also bring a beat maker who does a demonstration as well. And then in addition to that, we invite guests in the con space. We bring in cosplayers to be figure models, but we will bring in figure models for the audience to draw, and it's just a great vibe. It's a great space for creatives to come and to be together and share notes and share ideas. So definitely, if that's your speed, if that's your vibe, definitely be sure to come out and support and participate.
Yeah, man, it's a great time. We're going to post another video that will be testimonials from some of the people who attended. Look out for that on the channel this week. Speaking of the channel, if you haven't liked the video yet, please do so. Be sure to join us here in the live chat. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please make that happen. We have new episodes of the podcast every 2 weeks and content in between then as well. And yeah, man, if you're just a visual artist or a musician, just looking for not just great content, but people who are, part of your tribe as well, who are also giving great resources to the community, then definitely we're some folks you probably want to know. Speaking of things that is going on recently, but is also about to go away real quick, our summer sale was that is still going on and about to come to an end, actually. So there is a link in the chat, but our summer sale is happening right now, 25% off of everything on our store. The link is in the chat and the description of the video. So please head over to our website, subartmusic.com/store at some point in time and grab some merch. And if you're someone who saw us at the con over the weekend, that discount will allow you to get those con merch prices. You know what I'm saying? So but yeah, let's keep it moving because we got a lot to get into, and we have an awesome guest, real good brother, and we're going to bring him on momentarily. But we got one more thing to shout out, and that is our good friends, Words, Beats, and Life. We are so grateful to our sponsor, Words, Beats, and Life, for believing in what we do. And we're happy to share that they're celebrating their 20th anniversary as an organization.
Give that a clap.
Yeah, that's clap worthy. Clap it up. And yeah, man, shout out to them for all the great work that they do. And right now they have a fundraiser that's going on that will be lasting for the next week. So if you head over to their website, wblinc.org, you can go ahead and donate. What you're gonna do though, when you put in that link, make sure that you drop as a /act. I'm gonna put the link in there in a little bit, but and we'll get into more details in the middle of the video. But this is a great time to support the organization and help them build for the next 20 years, man. I'm so proud of the work that they do, and I'm proud to be an educator with them, where I teach the business of art and music. Absolutely. And so on that note, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, man, we are super excited to bring on our guests for this week. As we're always excited to bring on our guests,
every week.
But you know, we use the hashtag My Friends Are Dope, and we use it for a reason, and that's because it's the truth, man. No sice, we ain't putting no sauce on it. It's the truth. Our friends are dope, and this brother is no exception. So, ladies and gentlemen, coming up, we have our good friend Mega Ran. He's look, can we do the proper, what's the three? Yeah, so it's teacher, rapper, hero. You know, he's also in the Guinness Book of World Records, right? Like, you know, he's toured the globe. He's now a proud member of the Brotherhood of Fatherhood. He's out.
And he's an author.
And he's an author, you know, just doing the multi-hyphenate thing, you know what I'm saying? All the dash. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, clap it up for Mega Ran.
Yo.
All right. Peace,
Thank
good
you.
brother. Hey,
Peace,
man.
y'all. Thank you.
It's so good to see you.
It's
Great
good to see y'all
brother.
too, man. This is like the introduction, especially when you got to like father, like that stuff never gets old, man. It feels like the first time every time. So thank you for that very thorough introduction. It's awesome to be here, man. And you know, we always talk about the multi-hyphenate, you know, folks out there, and it's like man, I love the fact that, you know, we can do so many things and not necessarily be pigeonholed and you know, cornered into that thing you do, like, man, you rap, so just rap, you know.
Right.
So it's really cool to be able to do these things and achieve at high levels doing them, you know, to kind of shut those people up to think like, nah, you can't do more than one thing. You got to just focus, you know. And you can be focused and you can just be good at a few things, you know.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, brother. So, man, we're so excited to have you, man. And we have a lot of questions. Some of the questions they are questions that we ask all of our guests because a lot of us are experiencing some of the exact same things with the pandemic and all of that. But before we jump into those questions and really get into your backstory, you know, I just want to say, first and foremost, man, because I gave an intro. I introduced you not just on the show, but like back when we were in MomoCon. And one of the things that, you know, I admire most about you, man, is just, you know, I think when we talk about integrity, right? Like people throw that word around a lot. And oftentimes we don't talk about the amount of work that goes into having integrity. And like when I think of that word and I think of hip hop, you're one of the first people that come to mind, man. So I just wanted to, you know, I try to make sure I give you your flowers whenever I can, because I see your work, I see how hard you work, and most importantly, considering what you've been through and what your experiences have been, and you maintaining that integrity, you do it all most of the time with a smile on your face, and that and that right there, man. You know, I just wanted to clap it up for you and just, you know, again.
Thank you, man. I talk about that introduction at MomoCon so much because it gave me goosebumps. I was looking, I was like, man, he's talking about me. You know what I mean? Like it was incredible, man. I was like, I need to use this on like a song or an album or something, because like it was just a really, really dope intro. I appreciate the, you know, just the kind words, and like, you know, we've been around, we've seen a ton and met a bunch of people, you know. So it's just, to me, man, that's really what living's all about. It's like making an impact, you know. And I'm just happy to have made that sort of an impact for you, to give me such a, you know, amazingly positive, glowing introduction, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that.
And it's the truth, because, you know, from, you know, I met you later on, but when we talk about integrity and being true to oneself, like, you are in the position you're in because you were true to yourself. You didn't have to, you know, you didn't have to fit into this whatever, they think of as what should be hip hop or rap music. And so, kudos to you and being the example for a lot of people that come after you.
Yeah,
Thank you. I get, man, every time we go to a convention or something, man, somebody comes up to me and they're like, man, like I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, And I just think back to myself, and you could probably say the same. Like the first time I was going to conventions, I mean, it was very white. Like it was just, and to see over the year, and like even to talk to friends and try to get them to come to those events, it's like, nah, man, that's that white people stuff. Like, like I still remember like probably 10 years ago now at this point, I was touring with Open Mike Eagle, and we played a convention in maybe Canada. And he was just like, it was his first time stepping into a convention. And he was like, oh man, they like the stuff I like. They like comic books. They like anime. They like wrestling. It should be fun. And this was 10 years ago. And he was like, man, I just never felt welcome, like in that space. Like even while we were there, I did not feel welcome at all. And I was like, wow, like, and I'm like, I think a lot of that was like not seeing ourselves, in these places. And so as the years have gone on, man, it just makes my heart smile to come to conventions and see, brothers and sisters in the crowd and just people of all races just coming out and enjoying it, man. It's just so dope. I think the first time I really experienced that and knew what this could be was the first time I did YomaCon in Detroit. And I think it counts a lot to where the city, like where the thing is happening, like in DC or in Detroit, you're going to see some melanated folks, but like not always, what I'm saying. There are certain corners of these places where like we just don't feel welcome. So I'm glad that the con space is a place that we feel welcome, and it's just beautiful, man. It makes me so happy to be able to look at the the programming list and see black creators, black panelists, black artists, black comic artists, like all that stuff, man. It really makes me happy, because in 2007 when I started this journey, it was just me and like two other dudes, and so I'm happy to say that now we're in a place where folks are thriving and able to really feel welcome in the scene.
Oh.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Definitely. It's funny that you mentioned YomaCon, because when I first did it, I've been to Detroit. I got family there, so I know how black Detroit is. You know what I mean? But when I walked in the con, I was like, oh man, this it's a lot of us, fam. Like we're deep. You know what I mean? And and that was just awesome, because that time I went out there with you, Chris, Kay, and the rest of the crew. That was my first time doing YomaCon, so it was incredible. I always I hold that up. I think it was the previous year, but then that next year too, like it just got better and better, and I hold that to be like the standard. Like this is what I want every convention to look like the way YomaCon looked. Like it was well run, and there's just tons of people of color in great positions everywhere, like contributing so much to the culture. Yeah, for sure.
That's what's up.
Yeah, man.
We were going to start out with, as we talk with all of our guests, we tend to ask them about, how has the last 2 years have been? You've had a really good couple of years, in the midst
of the considering, pandemic. Like I hate to be that way, because everybody's like, oh man, I struggled, and I'm like, I just worked 3 times as hard, but it turned out like it worked out. I did okay, but it's only because I hit the ground and ran and just worked my behind off, because I was home doing nothing. I think if the situation was different, it might not have turned out the same for me. But I've just always been a person that just makes the most of the situation and tries their best to achieve, no matter what, and so. That's when I got to work. I had so many, I was touring like 280 days out of the year. So, it was finally a chance for me to be at home. And so I was like, well, I had all these projects sitting around at home, but I just was never here to do them. So it's like, all right, I started the book. I had started streaming. I started a podcast, but I just never gave those things a lot of effort because I was always gigging. And so I was like, well, now that I'm home, I can actually do this. Right. And so I just really got focused, and now I stream, I treat streaming like a job, where it's like I'm jumping on 3-4 hours a day, whether I'm playing video games, making beats, editing video, just talking. And building fans that way, and also taking that time to give back, and just finding new people every day. I mean, literally every day. I was just on stream this afternoon, and someone comes in the chat every day and says, "Oh my God, Megan Ran, I didn't know you streamed. Like, oh my God, I didn't know you were on Twitch. I didn't know you did this. I didn't know you did that." And I'm like, okay, that's why I do it. And I think that's extremely, encouraging, because it's like there's still, and I always make the comparison when people come up to me and be like, "Yo, I want to rap, I want to make music. How do I do it?" And I'm like, well, the first step is your neighborhood, your community. And I do feel like with the internet, it's maybe changed a bit, but I think that everybody who knows you or is in your immediate circle that you have conversations with, they need to know that you are a creator. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that's where it starts. So if your circle doesn't know what you do, then you need to be talking about it more. The way we sit around and talk about the weather, and the way we talk about how we hate our jobs, that's how you need to be talking about about what you love. And
Absolutely.
So there should never be a situation where somebody who's close to you is like, "Oh, I didn't even know you did that, man," or "I didn't know you were passionate about that thing."
Right.
So you got to talk about those things to the people around you. People get scared of taking it out to the world, but you got to start in your community first.
Absolutely.
And that's the biggest thing I said, man. If this is something that you go to sleep thinking about and you wake up thinking about, then everybody should know it that's around you. Like, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I remember there was a certain point where, as the music started to become more active for me, I realized that I was like, man, I can't take any more jobs, like full-time jobs, that don't know that I do this, right? Like, just like my friends know that I do this and my family knows that I do this, I've gotten to a point now where I got to tell them when they hire me, like, "Hey, by the way, just like you would if you had a part-time gig, right? Or like other obligations that would force you to leave at a particular time, right? It's the same thing." So I feel that 100%, man.
Yeah, I think what kicked it off. Sorry to cut you off, Rachelle. What kicked it off kind of was, I got to shout out Mason and the project that he brought to us. I think that, and that brought us together as well on it. And I think it really kicked off my, desire to be creative, to be active, to give back. And we wound up creating this. All I did was write a little verse and hand it in, and then the song comes back with like the seat belts and Yoko Kanno and like the cast of Cowboy Bebop, and it just becomes this gigantic, beautiful thing. And I was just like, oh my God, like this wouldn't have happened if not for the pandemic. So because everybody was home, So
Right.
I think like just that moment, it clicked for me, being like, oh wow, like you can do something because everybody's at home. So let's work on a way to give back and to stay creative. And that was where the book and other projects came from.
Yeah, and it was for a good cause. It was for a great cause.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, take us back to, because I know you're based now in Arizona, but home for you is actually Philadelphia. So tell us, what was your first introduction into the arts, whether it was visual or was it performance, or take us back to little Raheem.
Little Raheem, little Ra on the block of Philly. It started with street art, graffiti, is how everything started. For us, it was me seeing some of the older kids just being so creative in the neighborhood in the late 70s, early 80s, and showing everybody would have a sketch pad, everybody have a notebook, and be like, "Oh, let me see your hand style, let me see what you got," And then I would look and be like, "Oh my God, this stuff is so good!" Like, and I never was really good at it, but man, like it just really made me like want to create and be better, and just so I could have something to show them, like, all right, now check this out. I flipped through the page, and even back then, I think, what did I didn't like tag on places I wasn't supposed to tag. I was just in my notebook, and I would do rad, and so I was like rad, and like even back then, people were like rad, like man, like that ain't street, sir. Like, that ain't cool. Like, everybody was like ski and like, you know, all these cool names. And I was like rad. And they're like, you know. But yeah, like I think that's where from then it just went to drawing. You know, I was still getting sketch pads and color pencils and just drawing and reading comics and trying to redraw a lot of the comics that I saw and cartoons and things like that, making up my own comics and characters. And then, you know, the hip hop bug bit us. And from there, I feel like almost every MC from the inner city probably has that story. Like you're probably nice with drawing. You know what I mean? You're probably a good writer, like a creative storyteller who writes comics, and then you naturally take that into rhyming and becoming like a storyteller with the rhyming. So that was kind of how it was for me. I had a crew of like 5 or 6 kind of nerdy, kind of square kids in the city that were, you know, just really good at drawing, really good with words, just like super intelligent kids. And we just all sat down and would put our heads together and try to write songs. And we were trying to be De La Soul, you know, where we would like, you know, back and forth with each other with rhymes. And it started with just rewriting every song we liked. I remember me, myself, and we would write it all down. Like, all right, now I'm plug 1. All right, now you plug 2, you know. And then the Humpty Dance, so things like that. I remember just writing out every single word and us just going back and forth rapping it. And then LL Cool J, I'm bad, I need love, and all those things. So then it was like, well, let's just try to write our own stuff. And we needed beats, you know, so we would buy the cassette singles, and you know, they usually have a instrumental on the B side, and we were rhyming on it. But if they didn't, we would start using our pause tape to, you know, kind of play it, fast forward and rewind and click little pieces if we caught the break beat. And the 2 tape decks, man, you were the man if you had a 2 tape deck, you know, radio in the hood. So then we would just kind of start calling ourselves producers. Like, all right, you make the beat and then I'll make the rap, you know. So I'd be like, all right, let me get what was the one that I tried to do that it didn't really work out well, but it was Deep Cover, Snoop and Dre. There wasn't an instrumental on it, so I would try to loop the ending line, the end of it. He would play like maybe 4 bars on it. But the problem was Snoop says, and it's 187 on the undercover cop, you know, and it just kind of goes off and it echoes. So when I would loop it, it was just like cop, doom, 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 cop. And so he was like, I can't rap on this, man. Like, people got so mad, like, oh man, I can't. He's saying cop every 4 lines. Like, we can't even use this. So we would try to find our way around it and be like, all right, well, if we got cop there, then like maybe work that into your line somewhere, you know. So then that was like really the first time I started getting creative with that. That's actually the first time I ever told that story. That's crazy. It just literally just came to me. Yeah, I got exclusive. Like, that should have been in the book. But but like, I just recalled that one specific moment where we were like, okay, maybe we can use that. And that's really what hip hop's literally all about. It's just taking what you got, using it to make and create something great. And and that's really what it was. Side note, have y'all seen this old girl getting dragged for trying to diss Beyonce today?
But I haven't seen, I've been seeing whisperings, but I haven't actually stopped and looked. Clearly Beehive is in full effect.
Oh, they in full effect. And like, she didn't even have to come out and say her name. Old girl just came out and was like, why do you need 23 writers on a song or something like that? And it sounded like, I guess people took that to be like, oh, all right, you trying to take shots. Okay. Diane Warren is her name. And so the Dream even came in there on her and was like, well, this is how hip hop got started. We didn't have a lot of resources, and we went and we sampled, and now we're continuing to give back and give credit back to these artists for the things that they've created. And it's just, like, any other questions? And like, she's just getting like blasted on Twitter for this, and it's just amazing. And she's like, well, I only have one writer on my songs, and blah blah blah. And we're like, Okay. Like, all right, relax. Right. So, yeah, it's just so interesting. And like a lot of people don't understand that about hip hop culture. It's like, that's really what, I mean, we're so built on the past, you know? And I think that's what's beautiful about it, is that like we can never forget the past because it continues to drive the future.
Absolutely.
True. Yeah, man. So, I mean, with you talking about the past and the future, let's talk about your art and how it's evolved over time. Like, what would you say, like, some of what, I mean, based on that story you just told, obviously, you know, you come a long way from, you know, from the pause and stop recordings to now, like with the most recent thing you just dropped with Morning Glory, with that being over a beat that you produce. So how has your art and your craft evolved over the years?
Oh man, well, again, it was like I wanted to make beats, but I didn't have the software. I didn't have the hardware. I couldn't figure it out. So I remember a buddy of mine had an MPC, and I would go over to his place, and he would show me some things, and I would just tinker with it all night long, and to the point where I was into it more than him. And he's like, man, you want to just buy this thing off me, man? And I was like, yes, you know, but I didn't have the money. So I was like, man, I'll just come over and, you know, just learn. And from there, then he wound up moving away, and I was like, what am I going to do? So then I saved up like a bunch of checks to buy an MPC. I'll never forget. And I had to sell it to move to Arizona. And I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And then like around that time, I was like, 2005, 2006. And so software was a little easier to get a hold of. And so I got on Reason. I started making beats with Reason. And back then, you know, basically we're just all trying to find like sounds that weren't, you know, everybody else's sounds. You know, it was like, man, if I make a beat using the stock sounds in this machine, everybody's gonna know that I use this machine, and it's not gonna sound special. It's not gonna sound good. Like the stock stuff is not dope. So before that, I was using MTV Music Generator. And same thing, I was just like, oh man, I don't like these sounds, this is garbage. But the fact was you could sample, and you could like pop a disc in, and I was like, this is amazing, oh my god. You could eject the disc. And I was working at EB Games, which later became GameStop, and we sold we had a music section, and it was all video game soundtracks. And so I was like, I wonder. So I started taking, you know, getting a couple of, let me get this Resident Evil, let me try this Final Fantasy, and then I would take them home and sample them. And that was really the beginning of me making video game beats. This is before Mega Ran, before the idea ever came about. But it was right there for me. Like it was like video games and hip hop have been two sides of the same coin for me for my entire life. And it just took till I was 30 years old to be like, wait a minute. Hold up, you know, and just, you know, it was just like a aha moment, you know. And but yeah, I was making beats, doing things, and I wasn't like super confident in my own beats. I'm still not. Like I love when other people produce, because I like to just get another ear on what I'm creating, you know. I'm like, it's mine, I don't really know if it's good, you know. And so what I used to do, I used to make these random beat tapes, and I would let people listen. And then whenever a rapper wanted a beat of mine, I'd be like, oh, that beat's taken, man, sorry. And then that would be the beat I would use because I didn't know they were good. So I needed, that's the only way I get a second opinion, is if somebody asked for it. And that's like, I had like pretty good rappers like ask me for stuff, like journalists, a rapper who was signed to Motown, Freeway, like I was like people who come through the studio or people I would hand beats to, some of Meek Mill's homies, like before he had really like, you know, even was rapping on beats, he was just kind of freestyling outside, and a lot of those guys were just like hearing beats like, oh man, I like this, and I'd be like, it's taken, man, sorry, like, you know. And then I would go home and write something to it like, oh yeah, this one's good. That's awesome. This one must be good, you know. Right. And like that was really the only way I could get like real feedback on them, because I just couldn't, I don't know, it's still hard for me, like outside of myself, to step outside of myself as a listener and be like, is this good? You know, like it's difficult. But I'm just fortunate and blessed, man, to be around so many dope producers, man, from DN3 to K Murdoch, Lost Perception, and Young Li, like so many people who have just been like, oh, I like you so much, like let me, like please, like let me hear you on my stuff, you know. And that's really taken me to new places. K Murdoch especially, man, like he was the lifeline for so much of this, because I think what I needed, and I didn't know I needed it, and I didn't really care about it at the time, but I guess I needed a little bit of hip hop credibility injected into what I was doing, and like I thought what I was doing was already good, but I remember having a conversation with a guy at Fat Beats and him being like, so who else on it? Like, and I'm like, I'm on it, man. Like,
right.
I'm on it. I'm all right. And he's like, nah, but like, who's making the beats? Who's anybody featured in them? And I was like, well, this guy K Murdoch did some beats, and it's like, K Murdoch, oh, that sound familiar. I was like, oh, he used to be with this group called Panacea on Raucus, and they was like, yo, Raucus, what? Yeah. You know what I mean? So instantly, it's like, hello, friend. Right. Now we can distribute your stuff. So it took that, for me to kind of get into a lot of doors, and I think, and conversely, it took me working with Murdoch for people to, kind of the nerds to be like, oh wow, like what he's doing is really dope, So we brought each other to an interesting place, at a really like formative time. So like, he's such a big part of the story. I mean, the first time we went to Japan was me and Kay with you and Marcus, and like, so much of that stuff, like I always felt like you and I's career, like from that point, it's been kind of like paralleling, where I'm like, yo, I'm running into, the homies in the same spots, and like it's been really cool to see, what I'm saying? And I look at it like you paved the way as well, Stan, for a lot of like, literally for like the internet MC, what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't know if you'll ever get fully your flowers for that. They'll probably say it was Joe Budden or Cannabis or somebody, and like props to them, because they both did a very good job of like, galvanizing fan bases on the internet. But like internet savvy MCs who were like really making things happen and making things shake and creating movements, virtually, there wasn't that before Substantial and QN5, what I'm saying? So,
yeah, man, shout out to QN5. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, that's always going to be like forever in the, whether it's in the, the book of history in hip hop, like it'll be in mine.
Right. Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you, bro.
That's dope.
Yeah, man.
You have worked, as you mentioned, you've traveled, extensively, I mean, majority of the year, and I just lost my earpiece. But you continue to work with some notable artists. What have been the most memorable collaborations? Man.
Wow, there's so many, but honestly, another pandemic creation was Del the Funky Homo Sapien. And Del is a guy that is a huge inspiration to me. Like, I mean, one day I'll sit down with him and discuss this, but it will probably creep him out. So I try not to. Like, we keep our conversations pretty short and about video games usually. But one day, like maybe over a drink or something, I'm gonna be like, yo, dog, like, you created this. Like, what I'm saying? Like, because there was really no like nerdy rappers before like what Del was doing, like being very, very like upfront and unapologetic about their love for comic books, games, just tech, in their rhymes. And like, I still remember that Del cover that looked like a comic book, and then being like, interesting. Like, I like comics, and bam, and so just being a big Hyro fan and seeing Del from that, and like that was a pandemic thing, but I kind of like willed it to happen, and that's when I knew the power of positive thinking. One of his songs is arguably credited with like creating the subgenre of nerdcore. It's called Protoculture, and he created it in 2000, and he's rapping on a beat from this fighting game called Darkstalkers, and he's talking about how dope Sega is and how like Sega's better than Nintendo, and in 2000. And so him and his homie are going back and forth with just bars about games, and I realized in 2020 that it was 20 years to the release of that song. And I was like, this is the song that arguably birthed, nerdcore. I think we need to like remix it or update it or just, just bring it back somehow and like just make people aware of it. And I think I just put the word on Twitter. I was like, yo, if anybody knows Del the Funky Homo Sapien, like I have to talk to him, and nothing really happened. But then I was like, you know what? I remember one of my homies, man, just like telling me that he knew him. And I was like, well, he knew his mentor. His mentor was one of Dell's homies, which was the guy who was rapping with him on the Protoculture song. And I was like, all right, it's worth a try. So I reach out and he's like, yeah, man. He says he hasn't talked to Dell in like 14 years, man. Like Dell's just an elusive type dude. And I was like, oh man, if the guy who like literally did songs with him can't get a hold of him,
right?
I ain't got much of a chance. And so like I just literally just went on Twitter, I went on Instagram, I went everywhere and like tagged him and was like, please somebody tell Dell that like I really need to do a song with him, like it needs to happen. And the dude got back to me and was like, yo, here's his phone number, but like I really don't think it'll work. It's been 14 years and he's like a reclusive mountain man, and so I don't think it's gonna happen, but whatever, good luck. And so I'm like, I'm not just gonna call somebody, unsolicited, and so I'm not gonna use this phone number. And then all of a sudden, like one of my old tweets, he responds to it like, what up though, or something like that. And I was like, well, okay. And so I go through the tweet and I'm like, oh, I'm following up on this. So I like instantly hit him like, yo, DM. I'm like, yo, hit me up, man. I just got this crazy idea, man. And so we start talking, and we're talking about computer games. We're talking about PlayStation games. We're talking about Xbox. We're just talking for like a month before I finally ask him to do a song. And I'm like, hey, man, like, I got this idea. It's kind of crazy, but you know what I'm saying? What do you think about like basically updating your song? Like, I don't even know how I would feel about that. You know what I'm saying? If somebody says, hey, yo, Mega Ran, Splash Woman's 20 years old, I want to remix it, and can you do the hook? And I'd be like, man, get out of here. Like, that's my song. Like, I don't know how I would feel. But Dell was like, oh, say less. Like, let's do it. And got it back to me in like 2 days, and I was just like, what? And then we just got back to video game talk, and I was just like, awesome. Yo, this is insane. Like I couldn't believe it happened, but it just let me know like the power of positive thinking. Like I still haven't I've met him, but I haven't met him since we like collabed. I met him at shows, we shook hands. I remember like just telling him like, yo, you're dope or whatever, and us taking a photo together. But like we had never like talked since we had collabed, and so I still need that to happen. Like maybe we could get to do a show together or meet up at a festival or something. But that's still the most memorable to me because like it was like willed to happen. It's like the power of like just positive thinking and just not giving up. And, just like we were saying about the pandemic, like everybody's inside. So if you were looking to do any dream collab, like that was the time because literally everybody was home, And so for that, like I was able to get some really cool guests to pop up on my podcast as well because people ain't doing nothing, like, all right, we on Zoom. Another day on Zoom. It's just like, it's just another day on Zoom. Know? So, whether I'm doing this or doing that, I'm just sitting in front of the computer. So yeah, it just worked out. So that's definitely the most memorable collaboration for sure, just because of the work that went into it, and like being a fan of somebody for 20 something years, and then just having them be cool. Like there's so many people that I've met that were my heroes that were not my heroes after I met them. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just dope for people to be really cool.
Yeah,
no, for sure. And shout out to Hieroglyphics, man. Like, yes, definitely one of the greatest crews in hip hop history. It's funny, Casual, like of course I'm a Dell fan, but Casual might be my favorite of all of them.
Casual's incredible.
Yo, that dude bar game
like,
is
and
still filthy.
Still filthy. Like
they just dropped. Matter of fact, they just dropped something, right? Because they there's something called Golden State Entertainment or Golden State Records now. That's actually connected with the Golden State Warriors or something. But
wow.
Yeah, so they have this new like video clip that is actually on what's it called? It's on. I saw it on IG, but it got the whole Hyro crew, man, and they going in, and Casual just goes in, and also it got E40 on the joint, but that just dropped like within the last week, So shout out to Hyro, shout out to them, man. Like been a super fan for many years. So it's dope to see them still active. Hey, you know what? Have you been to High Road Day yet?
I have. I went to one High Road Day. Probably, I guess it was the one right before the pandemic. It's incredible. Oh my God.
I gotta go.
Like just the vibes. I mean, just the Bay in general. The Bay is like one of my favorite places in the world. Oakland is so special. I mean, even really now, I mean, we passed through there on our tour earlier this year, and Oakland is just so special, man. It's just like the culture is so alive there, and like my homie that lives there makes a joke like every day we protesting about something, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's what's up, you know what I mean? Like that's the Bay. Like if you living out there, like yo, we fighting every day, you know what I'm saying? And like I just really man, I love the vibes out there for sure. I mean, I've also gotten my car broken into several times there, but you know, it's just part of the element. It's all good.
It's called tough love. Tough love.
Yeah. Give and take. You know, right. I've given to the Bay.
You know, well, speaking of challenges, what would you say have been some of your most challenging experiences being an independent artist?
Well, I think I guess like the self-motivating thing is, to me, it can be great, but also not so much. Like I'm not so great with time management, you know, and I think that having to do it all, it puts me in a position where like today I spent 4 hours editing a video, and it's like, man, if I just paid somebody to do that, I could have just been out doing something else, you know. Like I always think about that, but I'm like, and then I wouldn't be building the skills and the time, and you know, the effort that it took to do that. I'm learning as I'm doing it, you know. So in general, I don't necessarily look at any of them as challenges though, because I think they're all building you and making you better, you know. But yeah, like once in a while, just one, you know, and I always, you know, I got to stop myself because I was about to say just once in a while, I like to have like a little machine behind me doing some things for me. But the machine never works as hard as me. So it never works as hard as a human. And it doesn't understand, you know, what a human would. And so literally every time, like I don't even know how many releases I have at this point, but over 10. And I've worked with a label for 2 of them, and twice I've never felt like they were doing for me what I could have done for myself. You know what I'm saying? So every time I'm just like, oh, I could have did this. Oh man, well, is this what I was like begging for when I could have just, you know? So for me, I just feel like nobody knows and understands me, my brand, my outlook, my goals better than me. So I like being in charge. I like being my own boss because my boss is cool. You know, he's fair. You know what I'm saying? But he gets stuff done. So if you can't, like, if you can't match my effort, then there's really no reason to partner up. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I look at it. And it was the big homie Murs who gives me a lot of advice. But he was like, man, don't ever sign with somebody who doesn't believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nah, don't even bother with that. Like, do it on your own. And I'm like, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, for sure. So real quick, we're gonna take a quick break, you know, so we can go ahead and shout out our sponsor, Words Beats in Life, and then we're gonna come back with more from the homie Mega Ran. All right, so everybody, y'all hang in there, and we will be right back. All right.
Thanks.
My name is Kalia, and I teach the DJ course here at Words Beats in Life. Well, I started DJing around 19, 20 years old. It actually helped me with my social skills. I felt like it was way easier for me to make friends. I also was able to learn from different cultures while DJing. I enjoyed teaching people the difference between house music and drum and bass. What I hope people get out of DJing is a sense of confidence. I would say for myself personally, as I started getting out there on my own, I built up a little confidence in myself, and I learned how to have fun a lot more and also project myself without actually saying anything. That's why I'm with Words Beats in Life. Enroll in the DJ class today at wblinc.org/academy.
And we are back.
Hey.
All right. Yeah, man. Once again, shout out to Words, Beats, and Life for being the sponsor of the Artistry podcast. Shout out to them. And be sure to check out that link that I just dropped in the chat. You can go ahead and contribute to help us fund another 20 years of the amazing work that Words, Beats, and Life has been doing. All right. But let's get back to it. So one of the things that we both have a lot of experience with and that I've always admired your hustle. I mean, we were just talking about being an independent artist. And I know that based on your profile on Kickstarter, you've completed at least 6 crowdfunding campaigns successfully. And that's not including some of the collaborative ones you've done from like with K Murdoch or MC Lars. So what are, I guess there's a couple different ways I want to word it, but what do you consider like some of the most powerful things about crowdfunding, and what advice would you give to other creatives who are considering it, for those who, one, have a fan base, and then also consider those who are just kind of starting out?
Well, I think the most important statistic with Kickstarter that you can actually see, and I used to be kind of like, I'm like kind of an OG Kickstarter guy. I've been on Kickstarter since maybe early like 2009 or 10. I don't know. But you can see there, and I think the most important number, not 6 or whatever, projects funded, but I bet I've backed probably 4 times that amount of projects. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is just as important. I think when you see creatives doing things that are really dope, you support them with your support. And I remember I wrote a blog in 2012 when I finished, at that time, my biggest Kickstarter, because people kept asking me like, all right, how the heck do you raise 20 grand, in 30 days? Like, it sounds crazy, but in that I wrote to you can't be afraid to ask for help, but at the same time, help comes in many different forms. So don't put pressure on people being like, yo, back me, give me $5, give me 20, share it. Hey, can you just hit that share? And I think that's just as important. And I think valuing that is a big key for me. It's just valuing the help that you can get from people who want to see you win, who may not be able to financially support. But there's so many. I don't know if you actually were asking tips on it, but there's a few. Don't launch around Christmas. Don't start or end on a Monday. Try to start on a payday or something. Man, give people a weekend to think about it. Start on a Friday, end on a Friday or Saturday or something like that. 30 days, no more than that. Trust yourself for 30 days. 2 months of e-begging is just not a good look. It's just gonna get exhausting. You're gonna run out of things to say, and it's not gonna work out. So also remember, the main thing is just asking people to share. That's really it. And I remember being all right, I gotta ask famous, accomplished people that are friends of mine to share or to buy or to give me money. Nah, just ask them to share. I think that's the least that anybody can do is just hit a share button. So that's so important. Collaborations are key, working with people who can also bring their people to you. Don't think you got to do it by yourself, and trust yourself. A lot of people are just kind of scared to do it, because they're like, man, what if I fail? It's over. Nah, you just retool it and start again. I'm fortunate, knock on wood, that I have not failed, but I think it's important to realize a failure at a Kickstarter is not the end of the world. It just means you retool it. Maybe your timing was bad. Maybe the project just wasn't super exciting. And it's a good thing. I look at it you didn't want to make that thing that nobody was going to buy. So it's best that they told you right now, no, I don't want that thing. And now it's like, that's even better. That's why I'm glad to have Patreon and things like that. I put projects onto Patreon specifically for people that want them. You know, like I don't have time for, you know, to release an album and have it flop. You know what I mean? Like it's disappointing to myself. But like knowing, okay, right now I have a project coming out this Friday that is specifically geared towards a certain audience. Like if you're into 80s anime and things like that, that's what you're going to be into it. So therefore the promotional methods are different than it being like, this is the first Mega Ran solo album in 5 years, and I got a lot to say. You know, this is me talking about being a dad and like really important moments in my life. That's a project that I'm putting it all into, you know. So, you know, so it's different projects for different uses, you know, and just being very like self-aware, I think is so important. Ask yourself, would I back this? Like, would I want to hear this? Would I want this to happen? What's going to entice me? You know, and I can show you guys that list. I would love to. I gotta re-dig it up or something, but I did it for a blog called So Much Silence a few years ago, and I dig it up every once in a while because it's got 10 tips for winning at Kickstarter, and I think the best one is just like, remember that, you know, getting $5 from somebody isn't the ultimate goal. It's to get the support and that of them wanting to see this thing get made, and so. Like, it's so important to step outside of yourself and just be like, is this dope? Like, is this something I want? And like, sometimes it's the best way to know, like, if it's going to work. It's like, if nobody funds it, it ain't meant to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
No, that's great, solid advice because you know, with what Stan and I do, our main thing is reaching out to artists, both visual and performing artists. And, you know, because teaching you how to do the art, folks got that, you know, but the business side of the art is not taught. And so that's one of the things that we definitely share. And crowdfunding is one of those things. So for those of you that want advice, definitely we'll be sure to get those tips from Ran, and we can also share some insights with you. We're going to transition now to some fun things, our rapid fire questions, you know, before we roll out of here. So we have 4 questions for you, and I want you to share with us the first thing that comes to your head. Okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
First one's a hard one.
So
Sorry in advance.
number 1, what is your favorite song or record?
Of my own, or?
It could be you in general.
Ooh, Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life.
Okay. Classic. Classic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Number 2 is most memorable performance that you were a part of.
That would probably be MagFest 2015. I was on the main stage, and I did this freestyle there, which I proposed to my now wife. And so that was a super special moment, and I was scared to death, and so much almost went wrong with that. Like, she almost wasn't there. She got there late. She wanted to take a little rest and was like, oh, I'll meet you later. And I was like, no. Like, you can't come later. This is not one of them things. Like, get up and let's go. She's like, I just got here. I'm tired. I want to take a shower. I was like, nah. And she's like, what is wrong with you? And I was just like, no, come on. You know, like, I was just not having it. But I had some backup plans, and you know, like, if it wasn't going to happen there, it would have been probably somewhere, probably at the MLK monument down in DC or something like that. It would have been down there somewhere, but on stage was like really what I wanted. So we made it happen.
That's so romantical. And they still together.
Been down there. I have a dream that you're gonna take this ring.
Yeah.
Oh God. All right. Next one is number 3 is, do you have a pre-show ritual? And if so, what is it?
Oh, yes. I breathe. I do breathing exercises. Sometimes I'll just like jump up and down a few times, and then I'll poop, and that's it. It's like,
take a load off. Take a load off.
Literally, like if somebody says, "Hey, you're on in 5," it's like, oh, there it is. I gotta go. Like, never fails. I think the day that doesn't happen, I'll be like, something's wrong. Something's wrong, y'all. There's a disturbance in the force. Like, I don't have to poop.
Call a
Like,
doctor.
what?
Call a doctor.
There's a disturbance in the force. Like, it would just be really bad if I don't have to. Then yeah, like I start doing the breathing. I'll maybe jump up and down a little bit, get some stretches in, and then number 2.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
You know, stay regular. Stay regular.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And last one we have for you is what is your favorite concert venue?
Gosh, there are so many, but okay. My favorite concert venue. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna keep it Philly. The TLA, the Theater of the Living Arts, on South Street, which I hope is still open. I saw one of my first concerts there. I saw Jizza at that place, and J Live opened, and that was a cool time. He was living in Philly at the time, and yeah, it was just a great show. It's always a good vibe in there, man. It's like a hole in the wall, but it's like the larger to medium size building, and it's just always a good time. You know, like I feel like that's the best place to see. No bad seat in the place, no bad place to stand. You're always going to catch everything, and it's good sound.
Awesome. Awesome. Aw, thank you for playing our game with us.
Yeah.
No problem.
That was fun.
Now we know that you got to get ready to go. And so, you know, we were just talking about live performances, and earlier, you know, we had mentioned that you are now part of the Brotherhood of Fatherhood, you know.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to know from you is what has been like some of the biggest challenges in terms of just balancing, you know, family life, balancing having a wife, along with balancing now having a child, right? Like especially because you're an artist that now that the world's opening back up, as you mentioned before, you're on the road 280 times a year a lot of times. And so what are some of the things you do to balance it out, and how has that adjustment been for you?
It's been great, man. This is something that I can't say I ever imagined happening, you know, to us. So it's definitely changed my whole mentality. And like, it's to the point now where I tell Jeff, and I'll be like, is it worth leaving my 9-month-old for? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And he'll be like, all right, fair enough. Let me go back and find out. You know what I mean? And that's always the question now. It's like, is it worth leaving, like potentially missing a really like a big milestone? You know, then you got to think about it. And that's really what it is. It's just making me be a lot more selective and of where I give my time and how I use my time. You know, so but we're foster parents, and we are hoping to get into the full adoptive stage. So fingers are crossed on that. We're doing everything we got to do, and you know, going to all the meetings and doing what the state wants. And it's just been a blessing. It really has been. Like, talk about like reshaping your focus, you know, like like now I like really don't have time to play around, you know what I'm saying? Right. It's like, yo, every second has to be utilized. So I'm waking up earlier, you know, I'm going to bed earlier, you know, I'm just getting a lot more done in that time. Like, so that's been the best part about it, you know, like they talk about rescues and like who rescued who, you know, like that. I really feel like that in this situation. Like we might have gotten him out of a rough situation, but like he's also saving us every day, you know.
That's beautiful, man.
You guys are rocking matching shirts.
Yeah.
I love
the
it.
twinsies thing.
I love it.
Twinsies.
I love it. Congratulations, Ran. Seriously, and we
Thank you.
wish you continued success. Nothing but the best, you know.
Thank you.
It's always been a pleasure, always.
Yeah, for sure.
Likewise. I can't wait to see y'all again at a show somewhere.
Yes.
I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you know, don't forget the new singles out. Morning Glory, Substantial, Novelist. It's just an honor to get together with black dads and get on a song, just kind of wax poetic, you know. When I originally wrote this, it was just kind of stream of consciousness. I was just writing, And then I was like, you know what? Who else would have an interesting perspective on this? You know, and there it is. You know, it's novelist, it's substantial, and boom. Like, I'm just really, really proud of the track, man. I had friends call me up as being like, oh my God, like, this is what I need to hear right now. Like, this is just a beautiful record. It's just so well done. The rhymes are great. The references are there, you know, as well as just being very reflective and poignant, you know.
And the production.
You killed the beat, man.
Oh man, thank you. That means a lot too. Like, I'm actually rapping and on my own production and letting other people hear it, and, you know, like that's like still a part of me that's like I'm not super comfortable with. So I'm just glad everybody felt the beat and felt the track and the concept, and super proud of the record, man. And it's doing some great things. So go and listen to it wherever you can.
Yeah, for sure. And while y'all are doing that, make sure make sure you support the book as well. Check out Dream Master, a memoir. It's a great read, some amazing stories from Mega Ran. Even if you think you know.
Sorry to cut you off. The hardcover is on sale right now. I just got an email from Amazon. It's like 3/4 off. It's like $5 this week for the hardcover of the book. So if you'd like to grab it from Amazon, get that free shipping, and I'll sign it at a show. So please go grab it.
Yeah, we'll do.
Well, you heard it here first.
Pick up another copy.
Mega Ran Dream Master. Get a copy for a friend. You know what I'm saying? Or an enemy.
Right. No doubt. Well, brother, we know you got to go, man. But, man, we appreciate your time for sure, man. And we hope you had a good time, too, man. It's always fun chopping it up with you.
I did, man. Great conversation. I learned a lot. Great questions, as always. So, yeah, it's always fun hanging, y'all.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, brother.
Till next time, y'all.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Take care.
Peace.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much to our guest, Mega Ran. And thank you to everybody else for tuning in, man. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Who do we have next coming up?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah, man. Look, we've had some amazing guests this year. So, also, just real quick note before we go. Shout out to everyone who tuned into the last episode. And if you missed it, please go check that out with Tamara Jade. You might recognize her from The Voice. I believe it was season 19 of The Voice or something like that she was on. She also tours with a lot of artists that you're very familiar with, from John Batiste and many others. Rock with Lizzo. John Legend, Lizzo. Yeah. And so definitely check out that episode. And apologies in advance because we did have a technical issue with the audio that was 2 weeks ago. But it's still a great interview. Yeah. And she from Maryland. She, both went to Suitland High School. Definitely got to show love to the home team. So if you missed that episode, check it out. But who do we have for episode 8?
So for episode 8, we have Elaine Nichols, who is a curator for the African American Museum right here in D.C., the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Dope. So that's going to be another great one. And if this is your first time checking out Artistry, you can also check out the audio podcast. Just search up Artistry, spell ARTdustry. You can listen to that wherever you listen to your podcast, or you can just catch us right here on YouTube and catch the live broadcast. And once again, shout out to our sponsor, Words, Beats, and Life. Thank you so much for the work that you continue to do and the support that you continue to show us. Everybody, please consider showing them some love and definitely backing them right now for their fundraiser if you can. As little as $5 or $10. Definitely take some time to consider contributing to the campaign. It's lasting for a week. Link should be popping up in the chat right now. And for those of you who are listening, you could just go to wblinc.org/act if you want to support. All right. Yeah, but that about does it. We will see you in 2 weeks. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure you do so. And definitely turn on those notifications so you don't miss a beat. All right. But on that note, we're out of here. Anything you want to close with?
God bless you. Good night.
All right, we're gonna get to these babies, and y'all have a great one, man. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Y'all. Thanks for listening to Artistry, where art meets industry. Season 3 of Artistry is sponsored by Words, Beats, and Life. Visit www.wblinc.org to learn more. This podcast is produced by Substantial Art and Music. For more information, please visit www.subartandmusic.com. You can also follow us on social media at Sub Art and Music. Peace.